Hey, welcome to my channel where I teach the Bible. I hope you'll subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified every time I put something out. I'll do at least 4 things a day, a couple of shorts at least. Those are less than a minute. And then my daily devotions. And then a main message for the day. And that's kind of what this is. That'll be a Bible study or a sermon. And this is pretty much a Bible study. And I'm going to take a look at John 11:17 through 27. This is the story of Lazarus' death and then being raised from the dead. So, and I call this, You Will Never Die. Listen, did you know that if you belong to Christ, you will never die? I want to explain that to you. And this is for Tuesday, the 24th of January, 2023. Jesus was really good friends with a guy named Lazarus and his 2 sisters, Mary and Martha. They lived in the town of Bethany. It's a couple of miles outside of Jerusalem. And they're really good friends. He knew them well. And Lazarus got sick. Jesus was away from there, some time away. It took a couple of days to get there. And somebody sent word to Jesus that Lazarus was sick. And he told his disciples, the sickness won't be unto death, okay? And he just stayed where he was 2 more days before he headed back, okay? Well, while he was gone, Lazarus died physically, okay? So he didn't leave for 2 days. And then he goes back, and we pick up the story in John 11:17 through 27. We'll read through that and make some comments. On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now, folks, if you've been in a tomb for 4 days, you're really dead, okay? And ripe. That thing, the guy was dead. Now, Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem. And many Jews had come to Martha and Mary, the sisters of Lazarus, to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now, God will give you whatever you ask. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. He wasn't kidding. He wasn't kidding, okay? Martha answered, I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Absolutely correct. Christ follower, so will you, okay? Someone had taught her correctly. She understood some doctrine and some theology and some prophecy. She understood that stuff. Good thing. And then Jesus said these words to her. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? Yes, Lord, she told him, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who will come into the world. She said, yeah, I believe you're the Messiah, is what she's saying to him. Now, what did Jesus do next? He went to the tomb of Lazarus, said, take the stone away. They said, no, you don't want to do that. He's been in the grave for 4 days. It'll stink. Jesus said a short prayer. He wept before he said the prayer. And he said, Lazarus, come out. Lazarus walked out alive. They took the grave cloths off him, and he was alive. He raised Lazarus from the dead. But I want to focus on 3 statements that Jesus made. Let's read verses 25 and 26 again. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? 3 statements. I am the resurrection and the life. He wasn't kidding. He is the resurrection and life. He is personally the resurrection and the life. What does that mean? That means that he is going to be killed, nailed to a cross, and die for our sin. And he will be raised from the dead, never to die again. Lazarus died again, okay? Jesus did not. So he is the resurrection. He is personally the resurrection. Secondly, he said, he who believes in me will live even though he dies. He is saying that even though you die physically, you're going to keep on living if you put your faith in Jesus. That is a profound statement. What that means is that Jesus and his resurrection is the only way that you can get off this planet alive. And no matter what happens to you physically, we're all going to die physically, unless Jesus comes back before we die. We're all going to die physically. And even though we die, we will live. That's what he said. He says a third thing. Whoever lives and believes in me, whoever lives and believes in me will never die. And he is literally speaking the truth. Because if you believe in him, your body may die, but you don't lose your life. Your life goes to be with him. You don't die. You don't lose your life. I was thinking about, I had a couple of big losses early in life. I had a little brother who was born dead when I think I was 6. Might have been 7. I don't remember a lot of the stuff that was that early. I'm 74 years old. Some of those things have faded. But the big loss that really hit me hard was when my grandpa Bishop died. I was 12. And he had been born in 1898. He died in 1961. And he was 63 years old. He was a pastor. And he walked with the Lord. He knew God. I talk about my grandpa a lot because between the time when he died and about 10 years later, I wandered a long way from God, but I came back. You know what brought me back? Thinking about my grandpa, because he knew God. He knew God in a personal way. He walked with the Lord. Now, I remember being at his funeral, and we all wept. A very sad time. And he was a pastor in Arizona. We lived in Flagstaff, Arizona, and a minister from Phoenix who we all knew and loved, knew him all my life. And I ended up in his church when I got out of the Army. It was in Phoenix, First Christian Church in Phoenix. The guy's name was Dr. William Speece Boyce. Great guy. Built a great church there. Was first chaplain in World War II that landed on Omaha Beach, most decorated chaplain in World War II. He came and did my grandpa's funeral. And then my grandpa was buried at the Citizen Cemetery in Flagstaff, Arizona. His body was buried, but he wasn't. You know why? Because he didn't die. His body died, but he didn't die. His life continued. You got to hang on to that. People fear death. I sell funeral and cremation insurance. And you know what? People say, oh, I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus. And then they don't want to talk about funeral and cremation insurance because it assumes that their body's going to die someday. But they don't understand that they don't die. Just because your body dies doesn't mean you die. And you know why? Because of the resurrection of Jesus Christ and the fact that Jesus paid for your sin on the cross and he was raised from the dead. He beat death. You get off this planet alive. My grandpa didn't die. His body quit working and his life left his body, but his life went to be with the Lord. That's what happens to you when you die. You will never die. Jesus is very clear. He's the resurrection and the life. If you believe in him, you will live even though you die, even though your body quits working. And if you believe in him, you will never die. That is absolutely the truth. The day will come when Jesus will come back and my grandpa's spirit will be raised in a new body. He'll be raised to be with the Lord forever, but he never died because he's with the Lord. That's what happens to you. He kept on living. And when you die, when you belong to Christ, you will keep on living. You just move out of this old body and go to be with the Lord. I was thinking about, I had to view my dad's body before he was cremated. And I remember standing there thinking, I love my dad. My dad was a good, godly man. He died 10 days short of his 70th birthday. And I remember standing there and viewing his body and thinking, you know what? The old boy's not there. That's just where he lived for 70 years. He died 10 days short of his 70th birthday. That's just where he lived. That's how it is. You do not die. You will never die when you belong to Christ. Hang on to that and don't ever let it go.